Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Hello, good evening to everybody out there. Mike Alexander here. Tonight I'm not joined by Jonathan Wilson. My good friend Jonathan is off for the evening. He's attending the wedding of a very good friend and actually a fellow I've known for some time. So, Ben, if you're out there, congratulations on your marriage. I think the guy must be 45 or something like that, but he's finally get married. And in his case, I think he waited just the right amount of time. So congratulations to the lovely couple. And Jonathan will be back with us next week. So for tonight, you have just me and just you out there. So we hope that you will join us and call in here. The number is 866-870-5752. Be sure to call in and be part of the program. We'd love to hear from you, and you've helped to make this show increasingly popular and to make Sunday night a great night for people to gather together around the table and pretty soon around the fire and listen and speak about things that are very, very important to us. You know, the events of the last few days have been remarkable and worthy of comment on so many levels. The first thing that I think, of course, is about all those Jews that were picked out, selected, focused on just because they were Jews. You know, the Holocaust never seems to be fully behind us. There's somebody out there going after Jews just because they're Jews, time after time after time, whether it's the Middle East, or in Paris and France, you know, where Jews have come under persecution, or now here in the United States. But, you know, very often, we forget that there are many Christians throughout the world who are being persecuted at greater rates than ever. Now, my point is not to no other purpose other than to illustrate that people are selected for their beliefs. They're selected particularly for the beliefs in the one God, and then made the object of hatred. And the Jews seem to be singled out with particularity, and so frequently. It's just so disappointing. And so many of the people that were killed back there in Pittsburgh were just plain old. And, you know, you wonder, so many cases that they had outlasted every other threat. Some of these people in their 90s and had obviously gotten through World War II. Whether they were prisoners or not, I couldn't say. But like a lot of their generation, they just somehow lasted everything out, only to be cut down by a monster who was crazy, and I'm not going to go into his politics. Somebody like this is nuts on his own. Nobody makes you go out and pick up a gun and shoot somebody. No amount of rhetoric is capable of doing that. I don't care what anybody says. And, of course, we had to go through all the other nonsense earlier in the week about that crazy guy who's got the, they immediately called this guy the MAGA bomber, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again. All of a sudden, this guy is the worst guy, and it's an opportunity to indict Trump. And you know, you just have to be disgusted by the media and how they get down into it. Each and every time and suggest some special fault on the part of Mr. Trump or somebody else, completely overlooking the violence of the 70s. You know, when you think back to the the Weathermen. You think back to Patricia Hearst, the Symbionese Liberation Army, and all the other people who had chosen to engage in violence during that time. Nothing to say. We saw the active encouragement of Black Lives Matter and the riots that we had in Ferguson and elsewhere. These were excused, and never for a moment was it was the rhetoric of the Obama administration, Mr. Obama himself or Mr. Holder himself. Never once was their rhetoric or the rhetoric of the media identified as a problem. It's just really outrageous, and we have to keep everybody in our prayers. And needless to say, we cannot tolerate a society in which these our disputes are being settled by violence. That is the polar opposite of what our constitutional system is about, and the opportunity to resolve these issues peacefully, to particularly effectuate the transition of power in a peaceful way. This was what the American Revolution was about, and this, in large part, is what we continue to fight for throughout the world, is for the rule of law, for constitutional free speech and rational argument. I'm going to come back to many of these things, but it is a stark reminder to us that our freedom, once again, is not free. No one just gave us our freedoms in the first place. That is, aside from God. We know that God gave us our freedom. It is inherent in our nature. But no political system handed us guarantees of those freedoms. We had to go out and fight for them. And no one is just going to magically keep our freedoms in place now. We're going to have to engage politically at a level that we never imagined to try to overcome everything that we're seeing out there in the political marketplace. We're going to have to fight against it, and it's going to take each and every one of us reaching out to our friends and to our neighbors, particularly during the next election, and that is upon us. It is 2 weeks, maybe 1 week here from Tuesday. So we're now down under 2 weeks. We're 10 days. It's going to be on November 6th, and all of us here have to come together. Now, speaking of which, I have a fellow on line one, Mr. Z. Apparently needs some help with his ballot. Is that right?
Yes. How are you? Thank you very much. Wow. It's an honor to speak to you folks. I texted my friends today and told them all about you guys. But I did want to tell you also that on the website, It says your show goes on at 9 o'clock. On the KRLA website, it says your show goes on at 9 o'clock.
Oh, really? Well, let's...
You might want to check it out.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks. We are on... It is on at 9 o'clock, but we from 9 to 9:30, but we start at 8, then go for 90 minutes. So we're on from 8 to 9, and then we start again.
Are you on the air now?
Huh?
Are you on the air now?
I sure am.
Oh, okay, whatever, but that's what the website says.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll double-check it. Well, in any event, I have you on the line. So what is it
to talk to you. So on the only thing that was not on the website, which is great, thank you very much, was that the county measure W, the city measure B, and E, and the school EE.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What is county on the website?
You know something? I'm going to have to go back and double-check that. What is County Measure W? Tell me what it says.
Los Angeles County Flood Control District.
Yes. And, how much money do they want you to pay?
It says raising approximately $300 million annually until ended by voters.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to double check that. I probably have. I'm generally opposed to any revenue measures because of the improvident and careless manner in which the county of Los Angeles spends money. This may be necessary, the flood channel, but I'm not sure that it is. I'll double check. Hey, Mr. Z, hold on here through the break. That music that you hear in the background means we have a break. We hope you all join us. Call in here at 866 870-5752. And I'll be back here in about 60 seconds here. We'll continue our discussion with Mr. Z. And for our voting recommendations in general, go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org. I'll be back in a minute.
If you like what you're hearing and would like to support Radio Free Los Angeles and the California Tax Limitation Committee, please call area code 626-792-1772, 626-792-1772, or kindly visit our website, catlc.net, catlc.net. You can also watch Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook Live at radiofreela.us.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
Okay, back with you here. Mike Alexander, my good friend and co-host Jonathan Wilson, is off tonight, but he'll be coming back next week. And we're going over voter recommendations now with Mr. Z, who called in. His first question was about County Measure W, which would raise another $300 per year for a county flood channel until reversed by the voters. So, in other words, it's a permanent tax. On that,
$300 million annually.
Yeah, what did I say? I meant $300 million. $300 million annually, goes on forever. Just on that basis alone, I think you and I could probably agree that the answer ought to be no.
Okay.
But I'll double check that, and we'll put something up on our website. What's the other one?
Was B City Los Angeles City Special Municipal Election.
Yes.
Shall a city charter be amended to allow the city to establish a municipal financial institution or bank?
Whoa!
If it's Democrats and money, no.
Right? Hey, you don't need my answer. Oh, Mr. Z here, he's got the right answer. My God, you almost blew me out of my chair.
Okay.
I've forgotten about that.
Realign city and state election dates.
Yeah.
Charter Amendment E, shall the city charter be amended to realign the city's primary election date with the state's primary election held in March of even number of years, and make other related and technical changes to the city election procedures.
Yes. Now, this has been going around for a while. Now, what would it would bring the primary and the election into the same odd and even years as the general election? Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, would it also make the city's municipal elections the same day as the general election? Can you tell?
It says to realign the city's primary election date with the state's primary election.
Okay. All right. So what's going on here, class? I have so many different feelings about this. You know, historically, cities have run and counties have run their elections in the spring. Yeah, the city of Los Angeles traditionally has had their primary in early February, their general, the primary in usually in March and the general in June. Then they end up with a runoff and that sort of thing. It's in odd-numbered years. And the cities and the counties did that so that people could focus on them. Now, what happens when you have municipal elections at the same time that you have state elections or general elections of any kind? You can have the city council races just overwhelmed, just inundated and crowded out of attention. It can be especially expensive for somebody who's going against the incumbents in office, or worse yet, trying to get an initiative passed. So, for example, down in South Pasadena, where the citizens there have sponsored an initiative to repeal the 10% utility users tax down there. They are in a very, very crowded environment. You've got the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, at least one senator race, the whole statewide business, plus the congressional races are come up every other year. So we just can't get attention. So I would have to say that generally, if I would oppose this. And keep attention focused on. Now, there is one single advantage there, Mr. Z, and that is that more people will turn out. I've noticed that in the city of Los Angeles, their turnout has been under 20% in the last two mayoral elections.
Right.
And as a result, you have a very few votes that are actually deciding a very important office, especially when you end up with a guy like Garcetti who right? And I'm glad you called in, because I'm gonna talk about this guy tonight and the city of Los Angeles. In fact, since you're the only guy calling in right here for right now, let's talk about Garcetti. I said before, we've got this guy running.
I just ate.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Well, we'll take a couple of Tums here. And this guy here, this clown, is running around the United States styling like he was going to be the next president, right? Well, let's see. Let's just talk here for a little bit about his mayoral accomplishments. And here's the only thing that you need to know. There are many. But now, bear in mind that this guy wants to run a bank now, right? So, so they can buy and sell dope and all that sort of thing. And I mean, from the same people who brought you the House Bank a while back, now we got Garcetti running around. Now the market liability out or their pension plan out there is upside down. Their own internal numbers show that at a minimum, their pension debt right now, unfunded pension debt, just on their crazy numbers, is $40 billion. That's right, Mr. Z. I said billion, not million. When you hear us talking about these other cities, you wonder, all right, well, here is the city of Los Angeles at $40 billion, but that's based upon their phony baloney investment assumptions where they think they're going to get 7 or 7.5% a year compounded return on their investments for the next 30 years. Now, you know and I know and everybody else knows that's not going to happen. So if you use a more realistic rate of return, that would say be closer to 4%, you end up with a potential market liability that is a real live current now today underfunding. They're $81 billion short. Is twice as much as what these guys say. Now that's Garcetti, and yet George Will, who's a Republican, that guy wrote an editorial here several months ago, who saying that Garcetti was a fellow whose message needed to be heard. Well, I wonder what in the world George, that guy's he's a never-Trumper, and he just got off of the edge. What the hell's he talking about? So there, just the city alone, it's upside down, $40 to $80 billion, about 27% of his total budget goes for pensions, and it's not enough, is it? It's no. Right here. See, there's only 2 or 3 numbers that matter. There's nothing complicated going on here. Theft is very simple. Incompetence and mismanagement is very simple. They've made promises to their employees, thousands and thousands of them, that just can't be kept. Now, they expect you or the other taxpayers to do it. And, even if, for example, I live here in the San Gabriel Valley. I don't live in the city of Los Angeles, but I buy plenty of goods and services that originate in the city of Los Angeles. I go to restaurants. I patronize their airport reluctantly, but there you go. We all pay Los Angeles City's taxes. We have a large integrated regional economy, and whatever's being taxed in one city is probably being paid by another citizen. So it is just absolutely insane. And by the way, I just got a note they want me to talk about the rest of the proposition, so I will definitely do that. Now, if we look over at the, and I'm going to talk about the salaries for the Los Angeles Unified School District, but those guys, their pension plan over there is underwater too. I got the numbers here. I think it's about $500 million that they're light over there. But yet, these guys are supposed to be geniuses, and we're supposed to seriously consider voting for them. Now, when you consider that this guy can't keep his balance sheet straight on that, now we're going to let him create a bank? Really? I mean, this is just totally insane. Totally insane. But hey, Mr. Z,
there is one more. If you have one more second.
Yes, sir.
It says school. LA Unified School District special election. Should it be held in the same day with the state primary election held in March, even number years, and make other related and technical changes to LAUSD election procedures?
Yeah, I say no. Let's keep them in odd years when we actually have half a chance to watch them. It's hard to know. I don't know. If somebody has a different view, I'd love to hear from you. There's a lot of conservatives out there who want to sync the whole thing up. But when I say sync, synchronize. Although that school system is sunk, it ought to just be put out of our misery.
You just stole my joke, sir.
Hey, well, since you're on top of your game,
work, you and you guys over there, we appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you.
God bless you for your work. Thank you, sir.
And back to you, my friend. Take care. All right, what a delightful call from Mr. Z. While he was on, I got a friendly reminder from somebody. By the way, somebody just told me, the bad news. Red Sox apparently just won a few minutes ago, 5-1. So if any of you were tuned into talk radio because you can no longer bear the pain of watching the Dodgers, I can identify with you. It was so bad I had to just come to the studio. I didn't even listen to it coming over. It hurt so bad. So at any rate, I guess we should show good sportsmanship and say congratulations to the Red Sox out there. So at any rate, with a couple of minutes to go before the hour here, I want to go over to our propositions and review all those for you because the elections are coming up. The primary source for you here that you want to go to is CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org. And click on statewide officers, and let's go over to the propositions. That's where folks usually need a little bit of help. First one, Proposition 1, issues $4 billion in bonds for housing programs, veterans' home loans. No, this is a fraud, a hustle, and a con. Answer is no to any more money for the government. Proposition 2 is another no. Authorizes state to use revenue from millionaires' tax, what a joke, for $2 billion in bonds for homelessness prevention housing. Why not a job, as homeless prevention housing? Answer is no. Proposition 3, another big no. They're looking for $8.8 billion in bonds for water-related infrastructural and environmental projects. Hey, we take in plenty of money, almost $200 billion a year in our so-called budget here in the state of California. Spend money on that first, rather than, to subsidize illegals coming into the country. Hey, we have only got 1 minute to go here before the end of the hour. I've enjoyed my time with you here. Come back with us after the hour. We're going to continue our coverage of the propositions and any other topic that you would like to discuss this evening. This is Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles, radiofreelosangeles.net. We'll see you after the news at the bottom of the hour.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, Mike Alexander back with you here. Radio Free Los Angeles coming to you from our studios at a high-rise here in Glendale. Radio station KRLA 870 The Answer. We hope you will join us to be part of the program at 866-870-5752. We're going to continue our discussion of voter recommendations, and I want to say again, for those of you who are out there, we'll talk with them, talk with you about it if you call in, but your basic reference here is California Taxpayers Union.org. So the word California Taxpayers with an S, union.org, O-R-G. Go there. We have the recommendations for statewide offices, Congress, and a few locals. And for Mr. Z, I'm going to have to go back in and look up a couple of those others because we need to know about them. Okay, so when we left off, we had 3 no's in a row. Let's make it 4. Proposition 4 issues another $1.5 billion in bonds for children's hospitals, don't you know? If they would quit screwing around with our system and our insurance and playing games with Obamacare and everything else, we would be fine. This is just another giveaway program. We got plenty of money in our system. We don't need to raise more. The answer is no to any more money for government until they show they can manage what they have. Proposition 5 is a yes, however, and Proposition 5 would revise the process for of a reappraisal for home buyers who are age 55 or older or severely abled. It would permit them, make it easier for them to transfer their tax assessments, that is, their current taxed appraised value for tax purposes. They'd be able to take it with them more easily than under the current system. And that Proposition 5 is, if it's not sponsored by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, it is very aggressively and enthusiastically supported. Proposition 6, another resounding yes. This repeals 2017's fuel tax, so-called SB1, that raised gasoline taxes, raised registration fees, and a bunch of other fees relating to vehicles, and required a public and so forth. So we want to repeal that and require public approval in the future for any future increases in the gas tax or the registration tax. Fact is that the legislature simply can't be trusted with taxing powers, and we here in the state of California, of all parties, all races, all economic groups, every neighborhood. These people are out to tax you. If you think that just because you don't pay federal income tax or state income tax that you don't pay taxes, you are not paying attention. You pay very high taxes in your rent. You pay very high taxes in your food. And, of course, as you know, you pay very high taxes in your fuel and registration. For a family of four, a working family of four, it's another $700 a year. You can't afford that. Tell these people no. Vote yes on Proposition 6. Proposition, we're back to the no's. Proposition 7 would authorize the legislature to provide for permanent daylight saving time. This is another government scam. Just say no. They've got enough to do already. Go down there and protect the borders. Proposition 8 requires dialysis clinics to issue refunds for revenue above a certain amount. This is more tinkering with private enterprise. People will figure out where to get dialysis at the right price and be happy to have it. We don't need these state people trying to control that. Notice how they raise your cost of living in taxes, more bonds, more taxes, more registration fees. But those dialysis people, they're making too much money. Let's go get those guys. You see what I mean? It's all a fraud, a hustle, and a con. Leave the people at those clinics alone. Proposition 10 is another resounding no. Can't say no often enough to these people. This, bizarrely, would let local governments regulate rent. I'm just thinking back to Mr. Z, which is how he gave his name, when he called in, talking about that proposal to let the city of Los Angeles get into the banking business, no less. Now, that's just about as insane an idea as I've ever heard. So those same clowns who are already regulating rents and driving property prices sky high, those guys want more authority. Proposition 10, no more rent control. Say no, 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 no. Proposition 11 is a yes, and that would allow ambulance providers to require workers to remain on call during paid breaks. And this is just common sense. You can't have somebody sitting around saying they're on break and they won't take an emergency call. This is because of screwy California labor laws that now they have to come through and pass a new proposition. The answer is yes on 11. And once again, for those of you just tuning in, all of our recommendations are at CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org. Last, Proposition 12, another no. Ban sale of meat from animals confined to spaces below specific sizes. This is just insane. Government's got no business doing that. This is just a bunch of effete, elite, dope-smoking West Siders. They got nothing better to do. Hollywood nutcases. They just need to take care of themselves here and quit screwing around with the rest of us. Leave the farmers alone. It's hard enough to farm as it is. Okay, so that's the deal. We have Patricia from Gardena that would like to talk. Patricia, how are you this evening?
I am very well, thank you, sir.
All right, fantastic. Fire away, Patricia.
Okay, I hope I can say this right because it's hard for me to say this right.
Yes.
I'm writing about the judicial system.
Yes.
And I don't know about any of them.
Okay.
So I hope you can answer my question.
Sure.
First one, Supreme Court Justice Carolyn A. Corrigan. What do you think about her?
Let's see. Supreme Court. Yes. Carol Corrigan is a yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so I can go straight down my page and you can answer most or all of them.
Sure.
What is Leonora A. Corrigan? Is that how you pronounce it?
Well, how do you spell that last name?
Kruger?
It's Kruger.
Okay.
Yeah, good German name. The answer is 9. No.
No. Okay, good.
No on her.
Okay. Let's see. How about Victoria G.
Cheney, Chaney.
Cheney?
Yes, we have two people out there running who are candidates there. Helen Bendix, she picked up 3 stars from some people that we work with. They liked her a lot. And Victoria Cheney picked up 4 stars. So if you're just going by the point system, it would look like Ms. Cheney would be the preferred candidate.
Okay, Cheney, okay.
She might be a judge already, I'm not sure.
So Helen Bendix?
Bendix, she's got Bendix and Cheney are candidates in Division 1 of the appellate court system. Both of them are very qualified. Cheney got it 4 stars to 3 stars. So either one of them would probably a pretty good choice, but we would recommend Miss Cheney, okay?
Okay.
Division 2, I'll just go down the Division 2. Elwood Louis, L-U-I. And that's no,
okay,
big no. And running against him, Elwood there, is Victoria Chavez, and she gets 4 stars. So it's a big yes on Victoria Chavez.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me go back because you said no on the other guy.
Elwood. The answer is no.
No on him.
Yeah. And was it a Jake and Elwood and the Blues Brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so no on Elwood. All right. Division 3. Well, you got 3 zeros out there, right?
Right.
Yeah, no on any of them. Write your own name in there. You'll do a better job.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah, Division 4. Thomas Wilhite. That's 4-star. Good guy. His competition there is Nora Manella. She's got 3 stars. Pretty good gal, but Wilhite would be the better. Division 5, you got nobody to vote for there. Division 6, nobody. Division 7. Division 8, Tricia Bigelow is yes. Go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org and click on Judicial Recommendations, and you'll see what we have there. And I'm going to bring on Craig Huey next week to talk about this. Thank you so much, Patricia, for calling. We're up on our break now. I'll be back with you here in just a moment. Mike Alexander, California. I got too much going here. RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Back with you here in just a minute.
If you like what you're hearing and would like to support Radio Free Los Angeles and the California Tax Limitation Committee, please call area code 626-792-1772, 626-792-1772, or kindly visit our website, catlc.net, catlc.net. You can also watch Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook Live at radiofreela.us.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
Okay, back with you, Mike Alexander. Radio Free Los Angeles, RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Remember, this is citizen-sponsored radio, and we have an increasing number of you who have chosen to support our program, not only with your time and attention on Sunday night, but also, just as importantly, with your dollars. We certainly appreciate that. That, as they say, is the sincerest form of commitment, is to make a financial commitment, and it is that which helps to keep us on the air and to keep this local focus going. You know, most shows don't do what we do. Our focus is citizenship, giving you the tools that you need to exercise your citizenship knowledgeably, aggressively, and and really as professionally as you can. This is very, very important. And just as important as we talk about these issues is to help you explain these things to your friends, to your family, and so forth. Let's not overlook the importance of that process. And as we go into this election, it is not just the responsibility of candidates to get themselves elected. They will represent us. It's our job to make sure that the people that we want or the people who will best represent us in Washington, Los Angeles, Sacramento, wherever, in our own local cities, to make sure that those people get elected. That's an affirmative obligation. And if there's anything, a trend that I've noticed, is to notice for people to kind of sit there and wait for the information to be served up to them and to vote or not vote, but never ready to go out of your way. Now, when that happens, we create a vacuum, and into that vacuum moves the professional political class. They pour money into these elections. They create familiarity. They send out all these mailers and everything else, and the result is just god awful. It makes it very difficult for people to get elected. And so when you look throughout the cities here, all the councilmen, all the local issues that are out there, each and every one of them is supported by, guess what? Public employee union money, who are there to elect people who agree with their goal of growing the local government. They are there to get tax issues passed that'll generate more revenue, or to oppose anything that would reduce the revenue. So when we look down, for example, in South Pasadena, where they have an opportunity to get rid of their onerous utility users tax down there, the public employee unions work hand in glove with the city to keep those revenues coming in, because they don't want to hear from anybody. And it is an absolute outrage. And what is, I've said many times here on the program, ladies and gentlemen, it is not so much what these big, fat, overpaid public employees do. It's what you and I don't do. Is the money that we don't contribute. And there's nothing better, more effective than you could do than to contribute to the California Taxpayers Union. If we were as well funded as they, heck, if we were only 10% as funded as they, the political picture in the state of California, and particularly Los Angeles County, would not look like it does. We wouldn't be talking about a bank putting the city of L.A. into the banking business. Speaking of which, I have a call from Alan in Valley Village who would like to talk about that very subject. How are you this evening, Alan?
I'm well, thank you.
Great.
I noticed in the municipal handbook, I guess it is,
yeah,
that the city seems to be proposing something that sounds very preposterous. They want to set up their own bank.
I know.
I don't remember which number or letter on the ballot it is, but
it is something, Amendment B or something like that. Mr. Z called in here a few minutes ago, and we don't have it on our list, but maybe if a caller or a listener or somebody on my staff who actually has to be listening tonight would send me would look it up to see what that bank is and what measure it is, because we really want to condemn that. What is your understanding of why they want to do this, Alan?
I think they want public money to use any way they can.
Yeah, I know. What I was asking, you're absolutely right. That is the correct answer. But what excuse are they offering? What's the hustle? What are they trying to do here?
They don't. They're trying to convince us that we shouldn't give our money to private banks that are making a profit on us, that the city will not make a profit. They, in fact, will give us better terms for banking, etc., and therefore will also also allow the city to have money to use. You know, if I was hit in the head and had been awake for 10 days, I might go for it.
I know. Yeah, I mean, the idea, these people, can't even fill in potholes, and we're going to put them in the banking business. It is just a joke, and these are the same people. I don't know if you heard what we were talking about before, but the city of Los Angeles pension plan currently consumes something like almost one out of $3. It's a little bit less than that. It's like 27% or something like that. But that those pension contributions are phony. They're understated. As a matter of fact, the city of Los Angeles has an unfunded pension liability of at least of at least 41 billion, excuse me, 40 billion.
Billion or 41 million?
Billion, as in BS. Billion.
Well,
as of 2015, but that's low. It's a phony number. The number is probably closer to 80 billion. And they want to go in the banking business. Nobody should give these guys money at all. And you know what I think that the real reason that they want to do the city bank? I think it's to provide banking services for all the dope dealers, medical marijuana, whatever you call them, that are in the city who have trouble establishing regular banking relationships because of regulations by the federal government. Because most of this marijuana and medical drugs and so forth remain illegal under federal law. So these guys are out there taking in dope money, and the federal regulators are not crazy about it. So I think that the city wants to get in on that and provide them regular banking services so that people who are purchasing so-called medical marijuana can use their credit cards rather than cash. It makes them a huge problem.
I have a question, though.
Yes.
I'm not against pensions for public employees. I think
you ought to be.
Whatever, well, the city and employees should be able to negotiate those kinds of things, but the fact that it's overrun to the point it has seems to be a major concern. What is the remedy in the present situation, do you think?
Well, the remedy is insolvency. I've been on this topic here, Alan. I've actually been concerned about these things for 30 years and more. That I've been watching the growth of the pension problems in the United States, and it began back in the 80s and early 90s when large companies started to get out of the defined benefit pension system and move over to the regular pension system, which is a defined contribution. In other words, most of us in private industry, we get a salary or compensation, and then we set up 401k type programs, and we make contributions into that. Most of us do not get a defined benefit like the government people do. So, we need to be out of that business, whether or not they ought to have a pension. The fact is that we've allowed the political class to determine these pensions, to pay themselves, to run the program, to handle the investments, and they've just failed totally and completely. So we need to be out of that business. I mean, we're looking at over $1 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities here, pension liabilities, just pensions, for the three major programs of over $1 trillion. And no end in sight. So what's going to have to happen is that the cities are going to have to sit down with the employees and restructure these things. And I'm not sure they get the job done because they're not going to walk away from $1 trillion easily. Do you think?
I imagine not, although I'm still sympathetic to the notion of public employees having pensions. I would hope that some kind of resolution can be found that is
That's going to depend upon the California Supreme Court, Alan, who has this issue up in front of them, and they're going to determine whether or not these pension benefits can be altered once they become employed. That music that you hear, Alan, means that we're coming up on our break at the hour. I really appreciate you calling in, and we're going to double-check. Don't be a stranger. We love having you here. Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles, radiofreelosangeles.net. We're up on the end of the hour. We will be back at the 9 o'clock hour. We will continue our election preparation special. Be sure to come back and spend some time with us.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, back with you here, Mike Alexander. No Jonathan Wilson tonight. Jonathan is helping a good friend of his celebrate his wedding. Congratulations to Ben and his lovely wife. I don't think I've met her, but I'm going to congratulate you guys anyway. We wish you every happiness for a long and fruitful marriage. So we hope that you guys will have some kids here and bring some other joy into the world. Tonight we've been discussing the election here. If you have questions on the elections or comments, we love to hear from you. It is 866-870-5752 to join the show. And we'll continue all that in a minute. Looks like I have a call tonight from my good friend Brent in Los Angeles. How are you tonight, Brent?
Very good, Mike. How about yourself?
Well, hey, fine. We're fighting the good fight. It's a rough weekend in other ways, but the disappointments of a sporting contest pale in comparison to the suffering and pain and disappointment that we see among our friends in Pittsburgh, and I think you wanted to comment on that.
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to thank you so much for constantly being a light unto the city of Los Angeles.
Well, you're very kind.
And as a result of the mass murder of Jews in Pittsburgh, I just wanted to call on all Christians and Jews to remind themselves this isn't simply a vote for a political party. This is a vote for morality and godliness itself. And I hope they will all vote very seriously and consider very seriously to vote only Republican. Because whereas Republicans might have many issues and problems of their own, they pale in comparison to anything the Democratic leadership presents. Mm-hmm. And thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not covet, and thou shalt not bear false witness are all the tools of the trade of the Democratic leadership. And even the Democrats need to realize, the rank-and-file voters, they don't realize they're just being suckered and lied to every day.
Every day. And we all are, and we're all caught up in this crazy rhetoric. And I know I can hear some voices and criticism saying, hey, look, Mike, aren't you and you and Brent there, aren't you guys doing the same thing that you object to when the Democrats do it, which is politicizing this terrible event? And I think that my reply would be, no, that's not what we're doing, that these events do supply very important lessons. And the purpose here is to not to make to turn a tragedy into a political cudgel, right, but to draw lessons and to learn something from what has happened here.
certainly. And if it was only one mass murder, it would be one thing. But we're not just talking about what happened in Pittsburgh. We're talking about the rabid anti-Semitism on our college campuses in California, in our public schools, the anti-Christian beliefs in our state system. So it isn't, I'm not trying to take one particular event. I'm saying this whole state has just been putrefied.
Yes, and that's why I mentioned also the persecution and the murder of Christians throughout the world, which is at an unprecedented level. And the point is that whether it's us Christians or our elder brothers in the faith, the Jews, from whom we got our Christianity, we are believers in the one God. We subscribe to the commandments. We believe in the providence of God. We believe in right and wrong, a moral order from which all else it descends and prescinds from. This is tremendous, and this lies at the core of our country, the core of our values. These are Judeo-Christian values that are the absolute foundation of everything that we have here in this country, and it's all under attack.
Beautifully said.
Every last bit of it, and we have to reject that, and we do need to preserve our rights. But boy, Christianity and anybody else who articulates any lasting proof, anybody who stands up in opposition to the government and says this is not right, you are going to be struck down. And that's why they go after the believing Jews when they have a chance. That seems to be part of a biblical curse almost. And they go after any Christian who stands up. They're still chasing that baker. But no matter who it is, we have to stand up against it. And there's one party in this country who seems which seems to have engaged in more than the other, and you have properly called them to account, Brent. Brent, we have a few other callers coming up here. I'm into the last part of it. I'm sure glad that you called. And one of these nights, let's have a special discussion on these issues after the election.
Beautiful.
And cover some of these things, because pushing back against a totalitarian state is our primary objective. It has manifestations at the state and the local level, and the federal level. We need to talk about it.
And we need to vote for truth and for morality.
I'm with you, Brent. You take care, my friend.
You too.
Talk to you again soon. All right, next up we have Jerry from Ojai, wants to talk about Proposition 6. How are you today, Jerry?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Great.
My problem with that Prop 6 is that it states that there's $5.1 billion going to be removed from road repairs and that.
Yes.
And there's a pie chart that where the way they spend the money from the taxes and vehicle fees. And,
yes.
And it says that they budgeted $16 billion out of that, and it said that $9.1 billion, which is 59% of the $16 billion, was going to go to highway repairs and maintenance,
right,
and public transportation.
Sure, there you go. Public transportation, not the roads. Yeah,
public transportation.
Right.
But,
that's the gimmick. That's the hustle. Hey, Jerry,
if you do the numbers on that, $5.1 billion comes up as either better than 30% of that $16 billion, or more than 50% of that $9.1 billion that they have budgeted for the roads.
Yeah.
And how can that 12 cents be that kind of percentage of their projected budget?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. Are you generally in favor of Proposition 6, or generally opposed to it because you think
I'm 1,000% for it.
For it. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, what had happened here, and I've had the opportunity to speak with some people who are very, very knowledgeable about how this money has been working in the cities. So SB1, when they came up with it, the way that they sold it was the way that they structured it. And for the first time in a long time, it actually locked some money in to the budgets that went to the cities and the counties that have so much responsibility for maintaining roads. So that gave them, for the first time in a long time, an absolutely reliable flow of cash. In other words, all the money that had been taxed away in the past in order to pay for roads was just siphoned off and reallocated everywhere else. But SB1, they finally got kind of serious. Now, what we need to do is to repeal SB1, send it back, get serious about the existing money, and quit screwing around with so-called public transportation. It's a fraud, a hustle, and a con. And, Jerry, I appreciate you bringing all this to our attention. Please call again. I'm now up on my break here at the 9:15 hour. This is Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles. We hope you'll join us at 866-870-5752. We have some more callers. We'll get to them when we get back here after the break. Hello, this is Michael Alexander, Managing Principal of Private Trust Management Group. Our professionals will serve as your trustee or work with a current trustee to rapidly and effectively administer your estate. We serve attorneys and clients throughout Southern California. Remember, you don't have to do it alone. For more information, call us at 626-622-8000 or go to our website, privatetrustees.com.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
Okay, back with you here, Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles, RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Go there, give us some love, give us your name so we can communicate with you, especially during this election time. We're on our most recent last 15 minutes of our election special. We're going to have another one next week, one more prior to the election. We're going to have some good people in, have some politicians, some good candidates checking in with us, and we will also review everything. I'm going to try to get my good friend Craig Huey to come on and talk about the judicial nominations. Those are our categories. Those candidates are always tough. We've got 15 minutes to go. Before we go, I'd like to take Hector from Santa Monica, who would like to talk about what, Hector? What's on your mind tonight, sir?
Yes, hi. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Thanks for listening.
I'm in Santa Monica, and I don't get to vote on the Bank of L.A. proposition.
Yeah.
But when I heard it, I deal a little bit in the stock market.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful on how you set up a bank, because the devil is literally in the details, and I don't trust the politicians. For example,
we're going to put the devil in charge.
Yes, exactly. A bank can borrow directly from a Fed at a much lower interest rate, and they don't have to have collateral.
Right.
If they put in $1 million, they can leverage that million for more than $1 million back from the Fed.
Right.
They give out a loan, and they say, okay, we'll give this back to the Fed as collateral. We'll get another $1 million. It's like an unlimited, it's like a bucket that keeps on getting stuff poured into.
Yes,
and control
Hector
over that very easy.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, can you imagine putting these crooks in charge of that kind of? They'd be mainlining money from the Fed. But let's take the one.
I'm sorry. We already got crooks in Washington D.C. and we got $20 trillion in debt.
Yeah, minimum.
Can you imagine L.A. on top of that?
On top of it, and here's what the real deal is. If we create that bank, guess who's really going to be the ultimate guarantor? The taxpayer. Yeah.
Well, thank God I'm in Santa Monica.
I know, but this thing will spread pretty soon. Everybody will be amending it. There's never any end to the kind of mischief that these people are wanting to engage in, and it is appalling.
Every failing city and every failing state may think, oh, wow, maybe I can do this too.
Right.
Because, like I say, I'm not sure if this is possible.
Yes.
Or I should say probable, but depending on how you write it up, this could happen.
Well, it absolutely
could. Trust politicians?
No. I mean, it's, not only are you giving them the PIN number, your PIN number, you're giving them the whole freaking ATM machine. Now, these guys would never be done. Like I said, where it's really going to come down to, or one of the primary motivations there is
money.
Well, yeah, money, and they want to help all those dopers with their banking arrangements.
Oh,
that's what they're doing.
Not only the dopers, but can you imagine? They want to do the subsidized housing?
Right.
I mean, they can build 1,000 units. Say it's $1 billion.
Make the loans.
Go sell that back to the Fed and buy another $1 billion. They don't have to go to the taxpayers anymore.
It make Freddie Mac and Sally Mae look like pocket change.
Well, they're eventually going to be not have much change in their pockets.
Right.
It's all going to be in the homeless.
I know.
But eventually, who pays for it?
That's right. The taxpayer and everybody who does business in the city of Los Angeles. And they always and that's all of us, right? All of us do some measure of business in that wonderful city, one of the great cities in the world. And
what wonderful city are you talking about?
Well, city of Los Angeles. It is.
Have you driven along the streets?
No, of course I have. I've lived here my whole life.
Me too, and it's getting worse.
It is getting worse. My point is that we have a great state, we have a great county, we have great cities, but we have very poor management, and they're destroying what has been built here over the last century and a half by the people here of the state of California. Remarkably, our per capita GDP, gross domestic product. Our per capita GDP is still 10 to 15% higher than the rest of the country, even with all these nutcases we have running the state. What we have to do is to get rid of them. And, of course, as you point out, Hector, the last thing in the world we want to do is to give these idiots a banking charter.
You say, we're 10 to 15% ahead of the rest of the country?
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, last time I checked, California has got the most poor people in the country, percentage-wise.
Well, we do. There's no question about that.
And then these so-called politicians say, always tax the rich. But you know what? A lot of those rich people are their friends. Why are they still rich?
Right.
Because they're soaking the middle class.
They are, and that's something that I have here in my stack that I was going to talk about. Now's probably as good a time as any to talk about this, but the articles are increasing in frequency about the squeeze on the middle class, and I mean it's really getting worse. We've seen people leaving this state here. For 20 years, 20 or 25 years, we've been watching it. We had a lot of people got out early on, but now that pace is really increasing. If you're so-called poor, that is, if you're receiving guaranteed checks from the government and you're able to maintain your lifestyle there, you're okay. But if you're in the middle, if you're not earning 150 or 200,000 or more per year, if you're stuck there in the middle trying to earn a living, you're just getting killed. And these folks are moving. They can't sell their houses for the same prices they used to. We're cruising for a bruising here in this state, Hector.
It's not only that, but you got to remember the old proverb. Any power that you give authority to give you stuff,
they
can turn around and take it away again.
That's right.
So you watch the poor. I mean,
that's right.
When the crunch really comes, guess who's going to suffer the most?
Of course they will.
It's going to be the poor.
It always
the rich
is.
Going to be able to afford to leave.
That's right. They'll have no choice, and this state here is already in that position. And you know, you look at cities like Pasadena, Arcadia, St. Gabriel, all these places. You know, good housing start in a quality neighborhood starts these days at an absolute minimum of $750,000, $800,000, and $1 million for a home in Santa Monica is almost like a starter home, isn't it?
Are you kidding? I'm living 2 blocks away from a 700-square-foot house on a 60 by 80 lot that's going for $1.4 million.
Unbelievable.
And that's not in the expensive side of town.
Right. Yeah, you get to the rest, and these people are absolutely crazy, and to think of what they've done and all of their excessive regulation, we're not generating any housing supply. I mean, how do people buy a home? You know, it used to be, I mean, the great California dream here in the post-war area, you could come here, you could buy yourself a house. You could have a job. Not even both parents needed to work even during that area. Lots of people build estates on.
Work anymore.
I'm sorry?
It's amazing how people have lost common sense. Anybody with any common sense would say, okay, if you double the supply, the price has got to go down.
That's right.
The demand stays, almost the same.
Right.
But you tell that to a politician on housing.
Right. And hey, you talk about idiots. Kevin De Leon, you just got through ripping into the whole idea of the city of Los Angeles running a bank. As ridiculous as that is, there was something almost as ridiculous, and that was Kevin De Leon's proposal to set up another pension plan here in the state of California so that everybody could belong to that. It'd be a defined contribution, but Kevin De Leon imagines himself as Warren Buffett or some such thing, or Bogle of Vanguard. He was going to make sure that all business could do it, and he had in mind that everybody was going to have small businesses were going to have to join it and belong to it. And he was out there high on something, freebasing, pushing this idea. And of course, if we get this moron in the senator, by the way, Hector, I got a question for you instead of you asking me. I got one for you. Who are you voting for, Feinstein or De Leon?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the way I see it, if I vote for Feinstein, there's a chance, there's a certainty in the near future that we're going to be able to vote for somebody else. If you vote for De Leon, he's going to be there for 40 years.
Vote for the corpse. Okay, so we'll get another bite at the apple here. Okay.
Half of them over there already zombies. So it really won't matter.
Hey, you made my night. I like it. I've got some logic. I'm going with that now. Hector says, hey, we're up at the end of the program. It's been a ball. Hector, thanks for calling in. Hope you won't be a stranger, everybody. We've really enjoyed it. A lot of participation tonight. Join me next week. Jonathan Wilson will be back. Susie makes bail after this celebration here. We'll see you next week. Mike Alexander signing off tonight. Radio Free Los Angeles. Go to radiofreelosangeles.net. Sign up and help us to keep this wonderful program on the air. Thank you. See you next week.